Hey everybody, this is my new 40-gallon native tank. I don't yet have any flora or fauna in it yet. I'm still letting the tank cycle, and I got a question yesterday about that. I was asked whether or not the tank had cycled yet and when it was going to be ready for fish to go in it. And if you're a regular viewer, you'll know that the other day I went out on a couple of occasions and I got a bunch of rocks and gravel and sand and stuff from a local river, stream, whatever you want to call it. And I came home and I'm making air quotes here, sterilized it in hydrogen peroxide and hot water. The second batch, I will admit, I did not use hot water, but I did use a lot of hydrogen peroxide, and I swirled it around, left it in there for a few hours before bringing it down here and putting it in the tank. And so while it may have been live rock and live sand when I brought it home, it certainly wasn't going to be once I put it in the tank. And so I was about to tell this viewer and, answer and respond to the comment about how, no, of course it's not cycled in yet. It's only been 2 days after I just sterilized all that rocks. And so I got to thinking about whether or not I really did sterilize those rocks and how would I be able to tell. And I thought the easiest way to be able to tell would be check the nitrates in my tap water, and then check the nitrates here in this tank. Bam! If I'm getting a nitrate increase like that, then there is some serious nitrogen cycle action going on in there. There's no other way I would get that much nitrates from this tank. I filled it up with tap water 2 days ago. In fact, I filled it and drained it several times to get all the silt and cloudiness out of it. And so this is 100% pure tap water. It's been in there for a couple days, but of course there's wood, and that's going to give me a source of decomposing organic material, which would give me a source of ammonia. And because I sterilized, or because I killed off so much of the microbial life and the bacterial life, the little microfauna that was living all over the rocks and stuff, there's all sorts of stuff in there that's actually dying off. But apparently I did not kill it off to the point where I wiped out the nitrogen cycle, as evidenced by the buildup of nitrate. That nitrate would not build up in this tank if there was not nitrifying bacteria in there. So I've got a functioning nitrogen cycle in here. Now, I don't know how capable it is. It might be pressed right to its limits. I am going to check for ammonia levels and see if there's more ammonia than nitrate and all that kind of stuff. But at this point, I feel we are ready to start adding some crayfish into the tank. They're tough as nails and can live in almost anything. So even if there is a little bit of ammonia building up in this tank, it's not going to be that big of a deal. So give me a few minutes and we will make our way on down to the stream. We'll do a little bit of head cam action, see if we can catch ourselves a couple little crayfish or something, and we'll bring them back here and put them back in the tank. Alright, so we are going to start by looking in the slightly deeper water up here. Generally speaking, it's just calmer and easier to see crayfish moving around than it is to go down where the water's flowing more rapidly in the current. And it has changed quite a bit since the last time I was down here, and I'll grant you it's been quite a while since I've been down here. But this used to be a lot sandier and a lot more areas for me to walk around. And we are not looking for anything special, just crayfish. And I can see one right now. I'll have to find a place to put my bucket down. A lot of good that does. Just saw one under this rock here. So let's see if we can't scare it out. There goes one. Don't know where it went though. There's one. There we go. Crayfish always retreat backwards when they're threatened, and they, you know, do their fight or flight when they dash backwards. So I always just position a net behind them and give them a little scare, and they shoot right into it for me. So one just crawled under here. Let's see if we can scare him out and do the same thing to him. There he goes. And we got him. Now I know the little pinchers on these things are not nearly enough to hurt me, but I still treat them like I'm handling Chesapeake blue channel crabs. Alright, there's two little ones. There's a dead one on the bottom right there. Let's see if we can't rustle up one more little crayfish. There goes a little one. Let's see where it goes. Oh, that might even be a little minnow. Nothing. Not even sure what that was. I just saw something small dashing around. There's a little tiny one. And I got him. So he's so small, we're not going to count him. We're going to do 3 decent sized ones. And let's come back over here for a minute. Let the dust settle over there. I think that was a tiny one right there. Not even sure what that was. Oh, it says little tiny sculpin fish. Let's see if we can catch one of them. Nope. That's what those tiny little things I'm seeing dash around. They might be darters. There's a little tiny crayfish right there. Let's see if we can get him. There's another little tiny one. I don't really feel like we should count him either. There's a tiny little one. And you may think I'm wasting my time turning over some of the same rocks I've already looked at, but you'd be surprised how readily crayfish will just move into an uninhabited area. There's a little tiny one right there. And we got him. So I'm going to say that's enough. We got a bunch of little ones. They're going to grow fairly quickly. Let's see, that's another little tiny one. So we're going to call that good. I gotta climb back up my roots over here, and I will see you back at the tank. All right, we are back. Now, I did make an adjustment to that one rock in there, so we'll talk about that in a minute. First thing I want to do is get these little guys out of here and into the tank. Now, this species of crayfish, I found out, despite the fact that this is the only species of crayfish I've ever seen my entire life, this species of crayfish is actually not native to Maryland. This is a virile crayfish. That is its actual name, not its description. And they are not native to Maryland. So they must be really good at out-competing the other species, because again, I've never seen any of the other species, or at least not that I've ever recognized. And in the pictures I've seen of what are supposed to be native Maryland species, they are very different than these virile crayfish. So again, I don't think I've ever seen any actual native Maryland crayfish throughout my entire life. I've always seen these virile crayfish. Awesome little animals, though. Absolutely fascinating to watch. Watching them interact, stake out their little territories, watching them hunt. All of it is just absolutely fascinating. Now we're going to see these two come face to face again in a minute. Now, one of the reasons I switched out that rock was because I wanted more area for fish and crayfish to shelter under without taking up a lot of swimming around room. So I wanted a long, low, flat sort of area, and that's what that gave me. I propped another rock under the left side of it and moved around the rock that's on the right side of it, and so we can actually see under there. And of course there's still gravel under there, so anything like a crayfish that wanted to get under there and dig around a little bit would have plenty of digging room. I also moved this rock, the white rock you can see on the right there. That was down here in this corner. So I moved that and swapped out and put this bigger rock in, and that's going to give us a little more sort of rocky texture in the bottom while not really disturbing the flow and the lines in the tank. You can see we've got this sort of nice left to right kind of feel to it, the sort of flow to the tank. And I did not disrupt that by having any awkward, odd lines or anything. But I did give the crayfish plenty of places to burrow and dig, and I made sure the gravel is deep enough that they will be able to burrow out little holes underneath of the rocks. And I've got 5 of them in there now, and even though 3 of them are fairly small, these animals are pretty fast growers and they're very territorial. So probably this is going to be a sort of, there can be only one scenario over time. We are probably only going to see 1, maybe 2 crayfish in this tank over the long run. I'm not talking over the next couple of weeks or anything. We may see a little bit of fighting, a little bit of claws torn off here and there. I can see one in the back that's sort of moving around, but I'm not sure. Now he's moving forward again. Didn't know whether he was trying to get under the rock or come out from underneath the rock. It was weird the way he was sort of moving back and forth, dancing a little crayfish jig. So there's that larger one. I don't know what happened to the other larger one unless it's already under that rock somewhere. There's another small one. And you can see he's already doing his thing. He's sifting through those rocks. These guys are little machines, and they're like little construction workers too. They just get in there and they constantly do stuff. They constantly dig and they constantly move stuff around. They're always shifting little rocks and pebbles, and they continually sift through all of the gravel and everything, looking for little bits to eat. And they eat anything. They eat algae, they eat dead leaves, they'll eat bugs, little bits of meat and worm, you know, any kind of dead animal that's on the bottom, a dead fish. They are absolute scavengers. They will eat anything. All right, judging, there we go. There's a little bit of fisticuffs. I was going to say, judging by the way that one crayfish was dashing out from behind the rock, I assumed he had encountered the other one. So they will spend the rest of the day sort of scoping the tank out and figuring out who's who and where's where. And they will stake out their little territories and get it all, you know, to their liking, I guess. And pretty soon we're going to actually start to see little piles of rocks forming, and you'll start to see little sort of caves developing underneath of some of these larger rocks with a sort of a little dugout mound of gravel in front of it where you can see how they've dug down underneath. It's going to be fascinating. I really, really enjoy the crayfish. I don't know if you caught my other video or not, but I mentioned how I'm not 100% sure whether or not I want to do sunfish in this tank, or a sunfish in this tank, as I had originally talked about. They really blend in when they stop moving, don't they? I've had a lifetime of catching these things though, so I can spot them pretty easy on the bottom when I'm out in the stream. So I don't think I'm going to do the sunfish. I think we're going to keep this a small tank with small species in it. We're going to do some minnows and the crayfish, and then I'm eventually going to incorporate some plants, although having plants in a tank with crayfish is a difficult task to say the least, if not impossible, because they are voracious plant eaters. They will dig up and uproot the plants. They'll eat the plants. They'll chew on them. Plants and crayfish do not go well together. Fortunately, I've got some plants that'll float, and we can put them in there too, and we'll see how that works out. So there you go, everybody. That is the very first look at my new specimens, my new crayfish going in my native tank. So this one really will be all native species. I'm going to try to catch some minnows. We've already got the crayfish, and I'm going to collect all of my own plants for this one. And as you've already seen, we already collected all the rocks and gravel and everything here locally. Even that branch is a fallen tree from my yard. So everything in this tank is going to be collected by yours truly here locally. So make sure you're subscribed. You won't miss any of the updates on this tank or any of my other ones. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you real soon in the next one.